So I've put a first dust coat on over the top section. I'm going to go down a bit further this time and actually go down as low as there. So I'm just going to do the white primer on this section for now, because then I can blend the grey in from the other direction once that's properly dry. But the other pieces I will spray up in sections throughout the day. So here we go. I'm going to give a try at blending in some of the grey primer now and seeing how it goes. Fingers crossed. To a blend then is going up to the finishing rather than trying to start. So I brought the parts in to keep them drying next to the radiator, and I think I've had a few coats now. I think that's the kind of fade I'm looking for. You know, not perfect, but to go from white to the dark blue. Not sure if I'll do any more coats. They're all looking pretty good. That is where I've been holding it. It doesn't matter, it's going to be covered by the knuckle anyway. But yeah, they're just kind of drying off now. I think I'm gonna leave them here overnight, give them a light sanding tomorrow, get rid of any kind of dust and things that might fall on them, and a clean with a microfiber cloth, and maybe look at starting to get some colour on them. But yeah, we'll see what the weather's like, as it's now snowing. Yeah, I really need a sheltered area. But so as to make use of the bad weather time, I'm going to take out the exposed kind of screws and washers and things like that of those bags, put them into those bags after I've given them a good old clean and polish. And I need to change the sheath on this because it seems daft having one, well, dirty white-ish cream sheath when the others are black. So, got to change that, which I'm hoping I can disconnect the cable from within there, and that means I can get a perfect length cable too. So, let's crack on with that. So, about 3 coats of primer are now dried on this thing, and so I'm going to give it a light sanding, because I don't want to go all the way through the primer, but I want to take these small imperfections, dust, hairs, that sort of thing, off of the out of the surface. But obviously I don't want to start exposing anything underneath the primer. So very, very lightly just smoothing off small imperfections. And again, just cleaning the surface really, so that the next layer of colour coat, which is what's going on next, has a good adhesion. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how the fade came out. Being able to do it on the primer coat gave me a few kind of methods to practice. So I found that kind of starting quite a long way away from the surface with the spray was a good way of getting a kind of nice fade across from one colour to the next, without it looking too sudden and sharp, and then kind of getting closer where you want the you know, the colour to be solid. But yeah, so got a bit of sanding to do now. I think I'm gonna crack right on. Here's a good example of what I'm trying to get out. You can see just there, try and get it to focus on it. there's a slight bit of crud that fell on the paint when it was drying, and you can just about make it out. It's a little dark spot. Now that is kind of within the primer, and I don't want to paint over that, but a really light sanding and it's gone. So that's what we're trying to get rid of it now. And it really doesn't take a lot of work to get it out. I don't want to go through to the bare metal again, so I've got to be really, really gentle. But just keep the surface and get rid of those little bits of snot. Just done a little spot test with some panel cleaner and a bit of cloth, paper towel. Because obviously when you sand the parts, you're going to be left with a layer of dust on them. And so this one is just been sanded, and this one literally just with the damp section of the paper towel that I sprayed the panel cleaner onto the towel, just giving it a wipe over, and you can see there's a definite sheen difference, although whether the camera will pick it up I don't know. But obviously I'm not going to clean any of those panels now. I'm going to give the primer another few hours to dry. Well, not dry, harden. So either be this evening or tomorrow that I start putting the paint on. But I just wanted to make sure that I can clean them sufficiently with what I've got prior to putting the colour on, so that I don't end up washing the primer off immediately, which would be a bit of a disaster. So for now, the bike is still in parts, sitting by a radiator just to help, given that it's been snowing outside yesterday, and it's pretty cold today still. But yeah, there we go. Colour. So I'm just going to do a light dusting. To begin with. I'm doing the back sides to begin with, because hopefully just get them drying, and once they're kind of dry, we can flip them over and start doing the other side. But little by little, layer by layer, is apparently the key. And there we go. I'll crack on and get the rest done. Well, after a few coats of paint, we're getting there. I'm going to do one more, I think, and then we'll I think we'll be ready for lacquering a little bit later on. But the pearlescent white is pretty cool. If you get, yeah, you won't pick it up on the camera, I don't think, but it does add a slight depth to it, which is nice. Yeah, so I'm going to crack on doing one final coat. I think this fade has actually come out really quite cool. I'm quite pleased with that. You've got to be careful, the white oversprays onto the blue really quite badly. So I've found that you want to do the white last, but the problem is doing this section of the white, it naturally wants to go down because of the angle that you have to hit it at. So I'm, yeah. Let's get this last coat on. Well, I've just brought them back in from the last coat to dry here, and I've spent a little bit more time trying to get the blend between the white and the blue there. I think I'm quite happy with that. Fades quite nicely. You can see a little bit of spray spatter, but I want it to look, you know, hand done, which it is. And I'm pretty pleased actually with the way it's turned out. Spent some time in a few hours getting some lacquer coats on all this, and yeah, probably give it a sand down with some wet and dry, polish it up, and hopefully reassembly tomorrow, maybe. But yeah, I'm gotta say I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's looking pretty dope. It's lovely when the paint's still a bit wet and you can see the shine on it. It's like it's got the lacquer coat already on there, and you really get a sense of what it's going to look like. Yeah, itching to get it put back together now, but lacquer first. Well guys, there we go. That has now had 4 coats of lacquer, 4 coats of paint, and 4 coats of primer prior to that. And I think I've got the fade pretty good on this frame. I'm fairly pleased with it. Don't get me wrong, it's a Ratokan job and the paint job is not flawless. There are a couple of fairly small imperfections in there that, you know, I know about, I can see, but I don't think anyone looking too closely would really notice them. But I think for £100 bike and £100 worth of paint roughly, when I put this together it's going to look pretty sick. I'm really looking forward to it. So just going to let this lot harden up overnight, and then I've got some fake leather that I'm going to rewrap the seat and the backrest in, and I'll probably do that this evening because I think I might need a sewing machine, which I think my wife has. If not, I'll just have to hand sew it, but oh, that's going to be a pain. We'll see. So catch you later, probably later on this evening.
A little later.
Good evening. So I'm going to start with the one that I think is going to give me the most trouble, because the seat itself is actually just wrapped one piece, cut it to size, wrap it round and staple it in the underside. But this piece needs sewing, and I'm not a sewer. Okay, so I've got it off. The sponge was underneath quite wet, mind you. When I picked the bike up a few months ago, it was out in the rain, so I'm a bit surprised that it never dried out. And unfortunately, it's pulled some of the foam off, but this is just the back. So it's not that hard. It's just 2 triangular pieces and a long rectangular piece. So I might end up doing it by hand. However, let's take it apart further and see what we got. Okay, so this bit wasn't too bad. Bit of sewing. I'm not the best, so don't mock. But I knocked up in about an hour and a half. You have to stamp on it on the back to squash down the foam enough to be able to staple it back onto the unit. But you know what? For a first attempt, it's probably good enough for now. Probably not the colour of material that I'm going to keep anyway. And then the seat, I've just pulled off the base, drawn around it, and now I'm going to cut it out and staple that on too.
The next morning.
Well, the last thing to do before reassembly is to give some of the parts that I've not really touched yet a bit of a clean. So that's what I'm going to do. A bit of brake clean is probably going to be the best thing for it, and yeah, bring some of these parts back to life. And yeah, these bits are going to be nice, the chain and the sprockets, but I'm going to give them a clean because I'm going to use proper grease on them now that they've been sitting in the de-rustery stuff. Okay, let's get cracking. Cool, well, here we go. All clean, ready for reassembly. So, I'm going to call it a day on this one. See you in the next one as I put it all together. As you know, like, subscribe, all that shit. Love you, bye.